They thought throwing thorns in your path would stop you, but the same ground they tried to sabotage has now turned into a battlefield they can't walk across without bleeding. That's the law. That's the cosmic balance. In this universe, every seed of sabotage they planted becomes the roots of their own downfall. It's not superstition, it's mathematics. Energy never disappears, it circles back. And those who once mocked your pain, who clapped for your losses, who whispered behind your back while smiling in your face, they're now facing storms crafted by their own vibrations. See, life doesn't forget. The balance is meticulous. Critics may hide behind sarcasm, shade, or fake support, but their inner chaos always outs them. That bitterness they aimed at you is now poisoning their own progress. Irony? They thought they were derailing your path, but all they did was fast-track your elevation. The more they tried to pull you down, the higher the universe lifted you. Every attempt to bury you just exposed the fact that you were the seed. You were never just another person. You are the anomaly, the variable they couldn't control. And that power, that untouchable aura of being chosen, it keeps them up at night. Not because of what you did, but because of what you've become without needing to fight dirty. You are their unsolved mystery, their karma in motion. So before we dive in deeper, like this video, subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments to signal that your season of silence is over. The reckoning has begun. Before we dive into the chaos that karma is delivering right now, take a breath, because what you're about to hear isn't just a message, it's confirmation. The tables have turned, and the ones who tried to make you the villain are now starring in their own downfall. This is personal, this is precise. If you've ever been the target of silent wars, fake smiles, and calculated sabotage, you already know this truth lives in your bones. So before we get deeper into this reckoning, hit that like button, subscribe to stay in alignment with your power, and drop the number 77 in the comments to seal your energy into this moment. This isn't entertainment, this is your reflection, and if you're truly chosen, you'll feel every word hit like justice. Let's get started. Number 1. Don't start a war with a mirror. You'll only destroy yourself. Trying to shatter the truth. Making an enemy out of you wasn't just a mistake, it was a self-issued life sentence. The moment they tried to dim your light, they triggered a chain reaction they couldn't reverse. See, they thought you were just another target, someone they could undermine in private and smile at in public. They convinced themselves that your silence was weakness, that your stillness meant surrender. But they didn't realize your stillness was calculation, your silence was strategy. And the moment they launched their attack, they exposed their own fragility. They didn't just pick a fight, they declared war on something built from alignment, forged through chaos, and protected by unseen law. And now the very energy they weaponized against you is wrapping itself around them like a storm, with their name engraved in the lightning. They thought they could manipulate energy without consequence, but energy has memory, and it's circling back, custom-wrapped and overdue. Let's be honest, chosen one, while they were busy underestimating you, you were doing it too. You ignored the warning signs. You tried to humanize people who had already chosen to dehumanize you. You watered down your glow so others could feel comfortable in your presence. You called yourself too sensitive when your spirit was simply sounding the alarm. You weren't imagining it, you were feeling it. And your body, your intuition, was screaming louder than your logic could keep up with. You kept asking, "Why me?" Let me tell you why. Because you are the catalyst. You are the disruption to fake energy, to illusions, to masks. You were never meant to blend in. Your path is meant to rattle rooms and trigger truth in people who have spent their whole lives running from it. That's why they tried to label you. That's why they tried to frame your growth as a threat, because it is. Your presence exposed the fractures in their image. Your energy amplified the guilt they've buried beneath layers of ego. And now, those who once laughed when you cried, they're the ones pacing in silence, the same ones who turned your struggle into gossip. They're struggling to keep their own lives from crumbling. That's not karma playing favorites. That's balance being restored. The scoreboard isn't spiritual, it's energetic. And when you mess with someone aligned with truth, the universe doesn't throw tantrums. It delivers correction precisely and silently. So no, you weren't fragile. You were fire in a world of paper. You were the storm they couldn't prepare for. And now their biggest mistake isn't just that they underestimated you. It's that they came for you thinking the universe wouldn't respond. But it did, and it still is. And that shift you feel right now, that's not fear. That's your power waking up. Number 2. Stop feeding their obsession. Your energy is their only oxygen. Cut it off. They weren't in love with you. They were addicted to your frequency, obsessed with the glow they couldn't replicate. You were their high, their fuel, their secret source of validation. But instead of respecting your presence, they tried to own it. Instead of matching your energy, they studied it like thieves waiting to steal fire. They hovered in your space like parasites, smiling in your face while draining you in silence. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. Without your attention, they start suffocating. Without your reaction, their illusion begins to crack. You were their power plug. The moment you cut it off, they're left scrambling, grasping for a narrative, a new host, a new distraction. But no matter how hard they try, nothing feels the same. Because you weren't just a person. You were the pulse keeping their ego alive. Chosen one, stop feeding the very obsession that's trying to consume you. You're not obligated to be their fix. Your energy is sacred. It's not meant to be handed out like spare change to people who only show up when they're starving. You don't owe them another moment. Not a text, not a scroll, not a thought. Every time you engage, you're throwing oxygen on the fire they lit to destroy you. And the irony? They never cared about you. They cared about what they could extract from you. Your mystery, your peace, your glow. Cut the cord. Let them face their own emptiness. You're not starving them. You're finally letting them breathe in the smoke they created. And it's suffocating them. Let them choke. Let them spiral. Let them feel what life is like without access to you. That's not cruelty. That's balance. Number 3. Don't let them call you crazy. That's just the label they use to silence what exposes them. They didn't call you crazy because you were unstable. They called you crazy because you were catching on, because your clarity was getting too sharp. Your silence started to sound like evidence. Your presence started to press against the fake image they built for themselves, and they couldn't have that, so they did what cowards do. They weaponized your emotions, they clipped your reactions and paraded them as proof. Not because you lost it, but because they were losing control over how others saw you. See, it's easier to call someone crazy than it is to face the fact that their intuition is accurate. It's easier to blame your breakdown than admit they caused it. And let's be real, chosen one. What they feared most wasn't your chaos. It was your composure, your ability to feel everything and still not fold. Your refusal to let the pain turn you into a monster. You weren't dramatic. You were done. You weren't unstable. You were unapologetically clear. And now, the silence they used to mock is the same silence haunting them in the middle of the night. They thought labeling you would discredit you, but all they did was highlight the fact that your truth was too dangerous to let roam free. So the next time they call you crazy, remember this. That label is a mirror, and it's not your reflection. It's theirs. You didn't break, you revealed. And what they're really afraid of is the version of you that's no longer trying to explain anything. Number 4. Quit downplaying your power. They feared it before you even knew you had it. While you were second-guessing yourself, walking on emotional eggshells and making yourself smaller just to keep the peace, they were watching, not with admiration, but with fear disguised as arrogance. Because deep down, they sensed something you hadn't even tapped into yet. You thought you were being humble. They thought, we better stop this one before they figure out what they're capable of. That's why they came for you so early, so relentlessly. It wasn't random, it was strategic. They clocked your power before you had the language to name it. The way you walked into rooms and made people uncomfortable without even trying. The way your presence shifted dynamics before you said a single word. That wasn't coincidence. That was pressure they couldn't handle. But instead of embracing that truth, you diluted it. You called yourself too intense, too sensitive, too much. You tried to fit in when you were built to stand out. You minimized your magic to make others feel secure in their shadows. And every time you did that, you gave them more space to attack. Because when power doubts itself, parasites thrive. But not anymore. You're not confused. You were conditioned to forget how chosen you really are. But now that you see it, you can't unsee it, and they can't stop it. The very power they tried to mute is the same one now rearranging their reality. You weren't just underestimated, you were pre-targeted because your power speaks before you do. So quit downplaying what they always feared. Own it. Because that's exactly what makes making you an enemy their greatest mistake in history. Number 5. Never regret the betrayal. It didn't break you, it built a legend they can't outrun. Let them gossip, let them distort the story, let them pretend they played no part in the storm that made you. Because here's the truth, betrayal didn't destroy you, it revealed you. It didn't strip you down, it stripped them of access to a version of you they were never qualified to handle. What they meant to crush you with became the very pressure that turned you into something timeless. While they thought they were ending you, they were engraving your name into the walls of their own regret. You weren't broken, you were reborn, stronger, colder, smarter. You learned that loyalty without reciprocation is just self-destruction dressed in patience. And when the mask slipped, when their true colors came leaking through the cracks, they thought they had the upper hand. But what they didn't realize is you were watching the whole time. You were taking notes while they were playing roles. And when you walked away, that's when the legend began. They'll tell the story different. Of course they will. They'll say you switched up, that you changed. And they're right. You evolved past the place where lies could live. You're no longer available for manipulation, no longer explaining yourself to people who never saw your worth. And that alone is enough to haunt them. So don't regret it. Don't wish it went any other way. That betrayal was the blueprint. It was the cut that opened the gate. It was the burn that awakened your fire. You didn't just survive it. You became the reminder that turning against a chosen one is a mistake with no expiration date. They didn't break you. They built a legend they now can't stop running from. Number 6. Don't call it bad luck. That's just karma in a tailored suit returning every lie. Don't call it bad luck. That's not what this is. That's karma showing up in a tailored suit, on schedule, holding receipts, custom made for every lie they whispered, every smear they launched, every illusion they built with your name as the foundation. See, when things start falling apart in their life, they won't admit what's really going on. They'll call it stress. They'll call it pressure. They'll say, life is just hard right now. But deep down, they know. That shadow crawling up their spine isn't coincidence. It's consequence. What they tried to bury is now blooming in their own yard. The energy they hurled like weapons is looping back like a boomerang with blade edges, and it's not missing this time. The universe isn't sloppy. It's strategic. While they were laughing at your pain, mocking your glow, blocking your path, universal law was silent, but it was watching. And now it's collecting. They thought they were getting away with it, but karma doesn't shout. It waits. It waits until they're relaxed, comfortable, arrogant, and then it flips everything upside down. Now they're walking through storms they can't explain, wondering why every door they knock on is sealed shut. That's not punishment, that's precision. So, chosen one, stop checking their page. Stop wondering if they're still watching. They are. But what you need to understand is you never had to lift a finger. You just had to survive. Because karma doesn't need help. It just needs time. And now, time's up. Making an enemy out of you wasn't just petty, it was prophetic. And the prophecy is fulfilling itself, loudly, painfully, and exactly how it was always meant to. Number 7. Stop taking it personally. They're not fighting you. They're wrestling with their own reflection. Let's be clear. This was never really about you. Not your voice, not your boundaries, not even your glow. What they were actually fighting was the version of themselves, your presence, forced into the mirror. You see, when you walked in with truth, it exposed every lie they were clinging to. When you stood tall in your authenticity, it shattered the illusion they'd spent years constructing. And instead of facing the cracks in their character, they chose to attack the one who made them visible. You didn't ruin anything, you revealed everything, and that's what made you dangerous. They mistook your reflection for a threat, when really it was a lifeline. But you can't rescue someone who's convinced that drowning is safer than changing. So they turned you into the villain, weaponized your clarity, demonized your distance. But none of that stuck, because deep down they knew you were never their enemy. They just couldn't look in the mirror without seeing the truth you reflected back at them. So stop internalizing their projections. Stop letting their war with themselves make you question your worth. You were just the trigger, the spark that made the mask slip. And now they're spiraling, not because you did anything wrong, but because you walked away and left them face to face with everything they were running from. They're not fighting you anymore. They're fighting the silence you left behind, and it's louder than any lie they told. Number 8. Don't explain your silence. Let it echo through their guilt until it breaks them. They wanted chaos. They wanted you loud, reactive, flustered, because your voice gave their lies something to stand against. Your words gave them material to twist, but when you went silent, that's when the unraveling began. The same people who once mocked your quiet strength are now haunted by it. They can't sleep through the silence you left behind, because that silence, it echoes. And every echo sounds like accountability. See, they weren't ready for a version of you that no longer needs to defend itself. They weren't prepared for your disappearance to hit harder than your presence. Because now they have to sit with the reality they tried to avoid. You were never the villain. They were just loud enough to distract others from seeing the truth. Your silence isn't absence. It's consequence. It speaks louder than any rant, any text, any final word they hope to get. It tells them they no longer have access to you. It tells them you no longer need to explain pain to people who profited off your wounds. Let them sit in the stillness they once laughed at. Let them hear the weight of every word they never let you speak. That silence. It's their mirror now, and what they see in it. It's not pretty, because when a chosen one stops speaking, the universe starts. And trust me, it speaks in a language they can't ignore. Number 9. Stop apologizing for your growth. Your evolution triggers those committed to stagnation. Let's get something straight. Your evolution was never the problem. Their comfort with mediocrity was. They weren't offended by your choices. They were offended by your courage. You outgrew the room they were trying to keep you small in, and instead of clapping, they clung to the version of you that no longer exists. Why? Because your growth exposed everything they weren't willing to face in themselves. They didn't hate the new you, they hated that they stayed the same. The moment you stopped begging for breadcrumbs and started building your own table, the shift was undeniable. Your glow reminded them they've been standing still. And trust me, there is nothing more triggering to a stagnant soul than someone who chooses to heal, rise, and evolve without permission. They'll call you arrogant just because you set boundaries. They'll label you too much just because you're finally walking in your fullness. But the truth is, they miss the version of you that didn't know your worth. That's the version they could manipulate. That's the version they could control. But now, you've become a mirror they can't lie to, a presence they can't fake around, a frequency that exposes their excuses. So stop watering yourself down to keep the peace. Stop apologizing for the growth you bled for. You didn't change to hurt them. You changed to heal you. And if your evolution makes them uncomfortable, let it. Because the ones who are truly aligned with your future won't be triggered by your transformation. They'll be inspired by it. Remember, chosen one, you were never meant to be digestible to those who fear their own growth. You were meant to be undeniable. Number 10. Don't chase closure, let their collapse be the answer you never had to give. Chosen one, stop running in circles trying to decode a story that was always written in betrayal. You don't need their apology. You don't need their explanation, and you sure as hell don't need their fake version of closure. Let their collapse be the full stop you never got. Let their unraveling speak louder than any apology they never had the courage to give. Because deep down, you already know, if they were capable of truth, you wouldn't have had to suffer in silence in the first place. They didn't misunderstand you. They understood exactly what they were doing. They calculated your silence, twisted your reactions, and fed off the chaos they secretly created. And now they're choking on the very energy they sent your way. That's not karma delayed. That's karma delivered. And you don't have to lift a finger, because their own life is testifying against them. You see, when someone tries to sabotage a soul that was built from truth, the universe doesn't wait for revenge. It delivers receipts, and every sleepless night, every failed connection, every paranoid thought they carry now, that's closure. That's the truth they can't unsee. So let them spiral, let them scroll, let them wrestle with the ghost of their own actions. You're not obligated to explain the pain they caused. Your evolution is the echo they can't escape. And their downfall, that's the answer to every question they left open. Walk forward, chosen one, silent, strong, and unbothered. Their karma is the closure, and it's screaming louder than you ever needed to. Number 11. Use every hit as fuel. If they gave you fire, become the blaze they can't contain. They thought every hit would weaken you, every insult would shatter your spirit, every betrayal would slow you down, but they forgot one universal law. When you strike a force that was born from pressure, all you do is activate it. And chosen one, that's exactly what happened. They fed you fire. They thought it would destroy you. Instead, you became it. A walking blaze with purpose, a flame too wild to be boxed in. You stopped asking for fairness. You stopped seeking closure. You took the pain and you turned it into propulsion. Every jab became fuel. Every lie turned into leverage. You let the rumors sharpen your focus. You let their sabotage fine-tune your path. And now, they can't recognize the version of you they created. The version they swore would crumble is now the reason their peace is burning to ash. You didn't just survive, you adapted. You didn't retaliate, you reinvented. You walked through fire and made it your signature scent. This is what happens when someone tries to ruin a soul that was never built to beg. This is what happens when someone tries to control energy that refuses to shrink. You are no longer the victim of what they did. You are the evidence of what they couldn't destroy. They gave you heat, and you evolved into an inferno that now scorches their comfort zone. They can't handle you because they built you thinking you'd break. And now that blaze they tried to light around you, it's roaring within you. They didn't create a downfall, they unleashed a legacy, a wildfire with a memory. And now that blaze is writing your story in smoke they can't breathe through. Number 12. Forget revenge. Your rise is already the consequence they can't recover from. Forget revenge. Your existence already became their punishment the moment you chose peace over pettiness, evolution over ego, and silence over spectacle. They were expecting a war. They were hoping you'd break character, stoop low, start swinging in the mud like them. But you didn't. You rose, quietly, strategically, and that was the blow they never saw coming. Let me tell you what they're dealing with now, the pain of watching you succeed without them, the agony of realizing they gave the best material of their life to someone they thought was disposable. That's not revenge. That's cosmic consequence. They tried to break you so they wouldn't have to confront themselves, but instead they watched you rebuild in silence, and now that silence is choking them. You want to know what hits harder than payback? Living well, flourishing loudly while saying nothing. That's the type of response that breaks people down because it forces them to face what they tried to deny. You were never the problem, they were. They don't need your retaliation. They're already unraveling. Your glow is their trigger. Your joy is their karma. Your growth is the wound they can't stop reopening. So forget revenge. It's beneath you now. You've already won. So as we close this message, remember this. You didn't have to fight dirty to win. You didn't have to stoop low to rise higher. Your silence, your growth, your glow, that became the karma they can't outrun. You are the proof that alignment always outlasts attack. The damage they tried to cause, it backfired. The story they tried to write, it's rewriting them. If this message struck something deep in you, hit that like button, subscribe to stay tapped into this energy, and drop 77 in the comments to confirm your power. This isn't revenge, this is reckoning, and it's just getting started.